disclaimer, information in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended to be treated as medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare team before making changes to your diet, lifestyle, supplementation, or medication.
Wake up each day and ask yourself, what small steps can I take for me today? When you choose to prioritise your health, it continues to improve with small steps done consistently.
Welcome to Type 2 Diabetes Talk, the place where we chat about what really works to treat type 2 diabetes and prediabetes naturally with nutrition and lifestyle. If you're looking to optimize blood sugar and A1C, lose weight, reduce medications, and improve your overall health, this is the place to be. Now, here's your host, Type 2 Diabetes Nutrition Specialist, Dr. Jedha.
Hello, wonderful people. Dr. Jedha here, and welcome to our very first episode of 2026. And what better way to start the year with some serious inspiration? That's right, we're keeping it lighthearted, sharing insights, and setting the scene so that you can make this year focused on achieving the best health you can. We're almost 1 week into the year, and many people set New Year's resolutions. But unfortunately, never get past that first week according to statistics. If that's you, it's not a failure. It's just the whole idea of that has failed you. Instead of diving in head first, all in, let's chat about focusing on small, consistent steps. That's what brings real results. Consistency over perfection. To demonstrate this, today I'm sharing real-life success stories from people just like you. People who once struggled with high blood sugars, frustrating A1C numbers, weight gain and medications, and who have now taken charge of their health by using food as medicine and making lifestyle changes, taking small steps consistently to achieve that outcome. These are people who didn't have all the answers at the beginning. They faced setbacks, doubts, and challenges, but they decided to try anyway. And yes, many felt they had failed in the past. Many had hiccups and got off track along the way. But they committed, got support, and took those small steps forward each and every day. And now they've seen results that they once thought were out of reach. Now they are living lives with renewed energy, feeling empowered and overwhelmed with happiness and joy of the future they've created for themselves. So whether your goal is to lower your blood sugar, lose weight, reduce medications, or simply feel better in your body again, I want this episode to remind you of one important thing. You can change. You can turn things around. No matter where you are right now, you can do this. Let's begin with Wilma. When Wilma joined our T2 diet program, she was feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and at her lowest point, physically and emotionally. She had already faced major health challenges, including a cancer diagnosis at age 50, and had been living with high blood sugar levels for years. At one point, her blood glucose was as high as 22 or 396. She was doing her best to manage with food and lifestyle, but felt unsupported by her clinic. Despite reducing her levels significantly on her own, from 22 down to 10, 396 to 200, she was constantly pressured to go on medication, which wasn't something she wanted to do. Eventually, discouraged and burned out, she gave up attending the clinic. She was almost going to give up altogether, but that's when Wilma found our program, and she made the decision to commit fully. As she put it, "It's 16 weeks out of the rest of my life. I'm in with both feet." In just a few months, Wilma lowered her morning blood sugars back to normal. She lost 52 pounds or 24 kilos. She reduced knee pain and improved her mobility. She regained a deep sense of self-confidence and peace. In fact, her results were just amazing. Her turning point was realising that she had to put herself first, not out of selfishness, but because regaining her health allowed her to show up better for her family, including ageing parents who needed her care and grandchildren she wanted to be able to keep up with. Wilma's success came from full commitment and shifting her focus away from the scale. Instead of obsessing over weight, she focused on how she felt, what her blood sugar was doing, and how much better life became each day. As she said, I just needed something to say, okay, I'm going to do this and do the best I can and just see what happens in 16 weeks. And what happened? Well, a complete transformation, inside and out. For more on Wilma's story, listen to episodes 7 and 36 of the podcast. Now let's turn to Dean. Dean had been living with type 2 diabetes for over 20 years. Like many people, he had spent years with an A1C hovering around the 7% mark. And despite trying to do the right thing, it just wouldn't budge. He was on multiple medications, including Jardiance and metformin, and hadn't seen much improvement in his numbers for a very long time. But when Dean found the T2 diet program a couple of years ago, everything changed. At the time, he was 62 and keen to finally take full control of his diabetes. After completing the 16-week program, Dean lowered his A1C from 6.9% down to 5.6%, the first time he'd ever seen numbers in the fives in over 2 decades of living with diabetes. His doctor was so impressed they took him off Jardiance, and eventually Dean was down to just 500 milligrams of metformin and close to being medication-free. It was a massive milestone. But then life happened. Dean lost his long-term doctor, dealt with a family loss, helped care for his elderly in-laws, sold a house and was unexpectedly called out of retirement to do a high-pressure 6-month contract. Between the stress, work and injury setbacks, his A1C climbed back up to 6.5. He was discouraged at first, but this was a turning point. Dean recognised what was going on and decided to take back control. He got proactive again, refocused on his food choices, pulled back on those extra little slip-ups, and got back into his exercise routine. Within a few months, he'd brought his A1C back down to 6.0, and his doctor officially took him off all medications. Fast forward another year, and Dean has maintained an A1C of 6 or below, and he's stayed off all medications. So after living with diabetes for over 20 years, Dean is now managing it completely with food and lifestyle, no medications at all. He is officially in diabetes remission. And Dean's story reminds us of a few important things. First, change is possible at any stage of life, no matter how long you've been living with diabetes. Second, setbacks are normal. Life throws challenges at all of us, but it's how we respond that matters. Dean didn't give up. He just picked the ball back up and kept moving forward. Remember, you're never truly starting again. You're starting wiser and stronger than before, and that makes all the difference. For more on Dean's story, listen to episode 31.
Dr. Jedha's VIP membership program is the ultimate support system. Built by a diabetes specialist, tested in a clinical trial, backed by world-leading research, and trusted by people around the world for more than a decade. Whether you're newly diagnosed or you've been living with diabetes for years, the time for you is now. Lower your A1C, reduce medications, change your life. Join the program. Visit type2diabetestalk.com/VIP.
Let me introduce you to Susan. She's a retired department manager who spent years ignoring the warning signs: poor eating habits, little exercise, and a rising A1C. Every few years her doctor would say, "Your blood sugar's a little high, cut out the sweets." But like a lot of people, Susan treated it like a check engine light, something to ignore and hope it would go away. That all changed when she got a call from her doctor. "You have full-blown diabetes. I'm sending through a metformin prescription." But Susan wasn't going to go down the medication pathway. Instead, she said, "Thanks, but I want to try and change things through diet and exercise first." So with her doctor's approval, she got to work. She joined our membership and got proactive. Her A1C dropped from 8 to 6.8 within 8 months. Her weight dropped by 24 pounds, that's around 11 kilos. Her blood pressure came down to normal from 149/98 to 112/79, and her triglycerides, which were a whopping 413, dropped to 154. One of the biggest shifts Susan shared was mindset. She stopped focusing on what she couldn't eat and started getting excited about the real food that was helping her feel better. For her, the biggest win was feeling empowered, knowing she didn't have to stay on the diabetes path. She could walk a completely different one where all her numbers returned to normal and lived medication-free. Now let me tell you about Maria. Maria was 65 when she joined us. She lives with a disability and was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes 10 years ago. When she was first admitted to the hospital, her blood sugar was 730, which is 40.6. She was immediately started on 25 units of insulin per day, and within 2 days, her dose was increased to 45 units. Another doctor later added mealtime insulin too, without even doing a blood test. In the hospital, a nutritionist told her she could eat whatever she wanted and not to worry about feeling deprived. But Maria had other plans. She started reading books, blogs, and anything she could find to understand what really worked for diabetes. After 5 years of trial and error, she'd reduced her insulin so much her doctor agreed she could stop it altogether and manage her diabetes with food alone. But even then, her A1C wouldn't budge below 6.5. She avoided all the typical foods, bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, but her morning blood sugars stayed high. She kept trying, but nothing worked. Then she came across us and our program on Pinterest. One recipe, the vegetable and walnut musselman curry soup, really caught her eye. And Maria joined us, she made the meal and couldn't believe how delicious it was. And her blood sugar result after the meal, well, that was fantastic. She was hooked. Maria's A1C went from 6.5 to 5.6 and then down to 5.3. No insulin, no medications, just using food as medicine. What she loved most is that DMP helped her become adventurous. She discovered a love for curry. She tried lamb for the first time, and she's enjoyed new meals almost every day. While her husband does the cooking, Maria follows the weekly plans and says there are very few meals she doesn't enjoy. But the musselman soup is still her favourite. She also said something I think is so important, that DMP doesn't assume you take medications. It's focused on food, and that wasn't something she'd experienced before, as all the places she went had always just pushed the meds. Maria said, if you follow the plans and meals provided, you will love the results. And with an A1C now at 5.3, she's living proof of that. Cheryl's story, one that truly shows how powerful nutrition can be, even after living with type 2 diabetes for 20 years. Cheryl was 66 when she joined us, retired, and has lived through not just diabetes but also 2 heart incidents. Heart problems run in her family, and she became the first to be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Cheryl was pretty proactive, but even though she did all the right things by standard advice, cutting cholesterol, avoiding fat, watching her calories, her results only ever hovered in the 6.3 to 6.5 range. She was doing the work, but not getting the outcomes. Then, in 2016, yes, this is quite a while ago, Cheryl came across us while browsing online. She joined our 30-day turnaround program and made a commitment to truly treat her diabetes, not just manage it. Once completing that program, she joined as a VIP member. The guidelines we had were contrary to what she'd always been told, which were to eat low fat and avoid cholesterol, but she asked questions, got support, and decided to really go all in. In just a few months, her A1C dropped to 5.8. her weight came down and her medications were reduced by half. By the 6-month mark, her A1C was 5.7 and her weight was down, dropping several clothing sizes and with a healthy BMI for the first time in many, many years. Her cholesterol also dramatically improved. Her LDL dropped to 56, her triglycerides fell to 54, and her HDL reached a healthy 78. Her doctor was absolutely thrilled. Cheryl was finally seeing real progress, not from deprivation, but from a clear, proven, supportive plan. Cheryl wholeheartedly embraced her new nutrient-dense nutrition plan, simply because the improvements in all aspects of her health could not be ignored. And when life threw her a curveball, her partner went through major heart surgery, she was still able to maintain her health. She gained a few pounds, yes, during that intense time, but once she was able to refocus, the weight came off again. Her daily glucose stabilised and she got back to feeling her best. Fast forward, and now she's in her 70s, Cheryl continues to maintain her A1C below 6, keeps her weight stable and remains on reduced medications. She has maintained all of these health improvements over years. She says her cravings have disappeared, she no longer misses the high-carb or processed foods, and she's learned to enjoy cooking with the help of the DMP recipe library. For Cheryl, the biggest change was in her mindset. She realised that this isn't just about managing numbers. It's about committing to her health for life. She says she finally feels empowered, educated and supported, and that's been the key to her long-term success. As you've heard today, no two stories are the same, but the patterns are clear. Every person started with uncertainty, whether it was a scary diagnosis, rising A1C, or confusion about what to eat. They each faced a point where something had to change, and they didn't want to wait for perfect conditions. They took a step forward, even if they weren't sure it would work, and they kept going. What really stands out across all these stories is that the turning point wasn't just about the food, although that was a big part of it. It was the mindset shift, the decision to be proactive, to get support, to try something new even after years of struggle. Whether it was learning to read blood sugar patterns, experimenting with new recipes, or letting go of the old advice that wasn't working, they each created their own way forward. Another key pattern is consistency. No one made radical overnight changes. It was about building small habits, one meal at a time. And for every single one of them, the results followed. Lower blood sugar, improved A1C, weight loss, fewer meds, and most importantly, a renewed sense of confidence and hope. So if you're wondering if it's too late or too hard, or if you failed before, I want you to hear this. You're not stuck, you're just at the beginning of your next success story. You can change, you can turn things around, and you don't have to do it alone. This podcast, the DMP community, and the programs we offer are all here to support you, just like they did for Dean, Maria, Wilma, Susan, Cheryl, and so many others. I've been doing this a long time, over a decade, and if there's one thing these stories show us, it's that change is always possible, no matter where you're starting from. Small steps, big changes. Something we explored in episode 100, where Curtis also shared his amazing type 2 diabetes transformation story. And this is something to hold close in your mind and heart for this year. Small, consistent steps are the things that lead to big changes. Wake up each day and ask yourself, what small steps can I take for me today? And as we step into 2026, I invite you to make this the year you choose your health. Not through perfection, but through progress, one decision, one meal, one moment at a time. You can change, you can turn things around, and you can continue to improve your life for the better. So here's to a year of breakthroughs, better numbers, and feeling your best. See you next week. Dr. Jedha, over and out.
Thanks for tuning in to Type 2 Diabetes Talk. Please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. And for episode replays, episode notes, and more, visit type2diabetestalk.com. New episodes are available Tuesdays, 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time, or your time zone equivalent. Thanks again. We're truly grateful to be a part of your life and help make a real difference.